Kevin, Kristen, why are you special?
I don't consider myself special at all. I consider myself very, very fortunate and lucky that things have worked out the way they have. I'm a product of second attempts with most everything I've done in life. Didn't get into the Naval Academy first round, putz around, figure out something else for a year, and tried again. Got lucky and got in then. Didn't get SEALs from the Naval Academy. Went Marines for a while. Applied to the SEALs from the Marines. Didn't get it the first try. Got it the second try. Didn't make it through my first hell week. I've just been one of those people that put my head down and go through brick walls because I'm too stupid to find something else. So, yeah, I definitely don't think I'm special. I think I'm more lucky and fortunate than anything else.
I would argue that continuing, even when it didn't work out the first time, would be the answer to what makes you special. But anyway, I don't know. It's kind of a funny question, I guess, not one I think of frequently, but I've always had different priorities than people around me. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. And from when I was a little kid, I wanted to be outside and go surf and, be in the ocean, go skiing, go in the mountains, do all these things. And I grew up around a lot of people who cared about, what brand of clothing they were wearing and where they were going shopping and who they were associating with and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I just want to go play football out in the street. Like, it just didn't occur to me that was important. And then as I got older, I think a lot of people place their worth or their value or their priorities in things that, in the long run don't really matter. And for me, I've always just kind of seen a different perspective of like where I'm currently at. We have 2 young boys. Our older one is 2 and our younger one is 7 months. And there's been just a lot of changes, a lot of shifts, obviously, with them coming into our life. And I've been able to step back and be like, no, they are my priority. And being able to still, for me, like being a good mom for them, I know I need to get outdoors to have that like grounding. And so something I think that makes me special is just knowing what those true priorities are and what brings me joy and what makes me most helpful to other people. I'm able to see that instead of kind of getting caught up in all the other stuff.
I'm Herb Thompson, a Green Beret and resolutionist.
And I'm Corey Thompson, Herb's less hairy half and branding expert.
Our guests come from various backgrounds, but one thing is true. They are special. I love it. I know Corey does because you're like speaking her language there.
I'm a water baby and an outdoor baby.
And the whole priorities on kids.
On family. Absolutely.
Kind of that whole thing. But I believe the audience is going to feel you're special. I mean, obviously, Kevin being a Navy SEAL, Kristen being a nutritionist. Now you both have a bakery, which we'll dive into, Crafted Coastal Bakery. So without a doubt, the audience is going to see that you're special. We heard a little bit about Kristen's childhood roughly, but like Kevin, what was yours like?
Honestly, it wasn't anything like I loved my childhood. We got to do a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't anything. I don't have some, deep dark drive that led me into getting into the SEALs. I was trying to run from something that honestly, it all came down to one of my cousins who's about 9 years older. He joined the Navy when he didn't know what else he wanted to do after graduating high school. One of his best friends went on to become a SEAL, and he didn't have much of a family life, so he was always coming up for our family things. And he was just like the coolest guy ever, especially when I'm 12 years old and he's in his 20s, freshly minted Navy SEAL. Like, this seems like the greatest thing ever. And legitimately, I just never found anything better to drive after. But I was just a very active, rambunctious kid, and seeing this thing where you get to hang out with a bunch of other guys that are kind of like you, doing really cool, crazy stuff and have great stories. I was definitely the weird guy in high school, telling people I wanted to become a Navy SEAL. But I was like, okay, that seems like a great idea. Have fun with that. Everyone else has these grand plans of going on to business or tech companies. 'Cause I grew up in the heart of Silicon Valley, basically. So we were surrounded by all that. It was very, very much emerging at the time.
I do want to flip over to Kristen because, I mean, you do more than nutrition, but kind of how did you get going down the career path that you have follow to this point?
I've had many jobs, many careers. When I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my plan B was be a science teacher, like biology teacher. And then I never came up with a plan A. So I went and did that for a few years. That was actually, I quit teaching right around the time I met Kevin. But going from there.
Because she went out to Hawaii and experienced the incredible school system that they have out there.
Yeah, I moved out there and was a teacher on Oahu. It was an adventure for sure. After being in like a really nice school in New York, I made the switch, and that was an adventure. To maintain my teaching certificate, I actually needed to get my master's degree. And so it didn't matter, at least in the school system in New York, it didn't matter what your degree was in. You just needed a master's to maintain your teaching certificate. And so I realized I was really interested in nutrition and just eating well, eating healthy, kind of that whole realm. And so that's what I started to get my master's in, and I finished that up. And through that, I learned I didn't want to work in like a clinic or do that kind of nutrition work. And so I started coaching. I started coaching clients and was teaching them just how to eat well, eat for their body, what whole foods are, processed foods, eating enough. A lot of women severely undereat. I mainly worked with women, but worked with both.
Especially undereating protein.
Yeah, very low protein and a lot of processed foods. And just like metabolisms were all messed up, all these things. And so I did a lot of that in conjunction with just teaching them like how to work out and kind of coach them through all of that. I eventually got burnt out on that because what I found out was that as their coach in all of those areas, I also became their psychologist, and that wasn't the job for me.
Being a healthy or a health coach in any capacity really just comes down to life coach, because so many other things that people bring into their health is it is a ripple effect of what they have going on in life. Like, are they overeating? Are they undereating? It's probably because of emotional eating or trauma with weight concerns. If you've noticed my shift in topics on LinkedIn that I talk about now, I used to talk a lot about specifically veterans and entrepreneurs, but as we've really been diving into the bakery business, and specifically being a bakery that offers super clean quality ingredients, it's all naturally done. We're not using any of the
dough conditioners
that, instead of using yeast, they use these dough conditioners, which are chemically induced ways to get the same rise effect. Most people are allergic to those.
There's basically 3 categories of bread. So you have sourdough, which is made with sourdough starter, which is basically like an equivalent of yeast. It's made up of a bunch of bacteria. It's really good for your gut. It's a slow fermentation, which helps process everything. By having that instead of yeast, and by having the long fermentation, your body actually absorbs it really well, and it's actually very good for you. It's considered a fermented food. Then you have yeast breads, which are still decent, but yeast is a little bit harder to digest. You don't have that long fermentation. But then what most commercial breads are, what most things you're going to find in the US have, unfortunately, they use dough conditioners and commercial leaveners and all these other ingredients in there because they want to be able to throw all the ingredients in a big mixer and then, spit it out into equal portions, bake it, and it's consistent every time. You get the texture and the flavor you want. But a lot of those ingredients are super inflammatory. Some of them are carcinogens. Like potassium bromate's actually illegal. You can't put it in bread in California. You won't find it in flours here, but a lot of states do allow it. But there's other ones, even if it's not that one, there's a ton of them that are awful for you. And so a lot of people think that they are gluten intolerant or, that bread makes them not feel well. And it's not the bread, it's all those additional chemicals and all those additional things. It's not gluten itself.
You're shitty bread intolerant is really what it comes down to. So
that makes sense.
I will say though, anytime we've got it from like a decent bakery, and we have one we like to go to nearby, there's such a difference than what you get in the store, and like taste, but it just feels different and like looks different. And like,
I cook a lot of our food. I do a lot of stuff from scratch. I go to the farmer's market, cook organic, do all the things. Started doing that with baking as well, because I love bread. I love pizza. I love all that stuff. And so I don't want to feel crummy after I eat it. When we started having kids, Kevin and I were like, oh, if possible, I want to be home with the kids and not be working and have to pay someone to be with them at home. And so did that for a little bit and just got a little antsy. I was like, I want to do something. I want to have a creative outlet. I want to, even if it's some gas money or something, like I just want to do something. And Kevin was, as we were brainstorming, Kevin was like, why don't you sell your bread? Why don't you do this? Why don't you, it's so good. And I was like, no one's going to buy my bread. No one's going to be interested. No one's going to want that. And finally I tried it and I reached out to some friends and was like, hey, would any of you be interested if I were to sell it? And a bunch of people said yes. So the first week I made 8 loaves of sourdough, and that felt like this huge, crazy task.
It was super fancy too. We had a pop-up tent with a plastic table and a little Mexican blanket on the top of it saying fresh bread pickup.
Well, at least you had a sign.
On the side of the road.
Had like a little 2-hour window, said, hey guys, it'll be ready at this time. If you want to come grab it, I'll be outside like with the bread and you can come get it.
We live on, it's not a busy street, but there's enough traffic going by. And she started just making it look cute, having chalkboard signs saying fresh bread pickup or sourdough pickup. We live in Encinitas, which, fortunate for us, is like the health mecca of the U.S. There's yoga studios everywhere. There's vegan restaurants. There's all kinds of healthy, clean eating stuff here. It's everything that is health related kind of stems from Encinitas. And unfortunately, the secret's out now and everyone wants to move here. It used to be a sleepy little town.
Are you talking like a kid's lemonade stand? Just y'all did it with bread to start.
Oh,
100%. Yeah. It was
100%.
very much the same. Actually, some of the kids' lemonade stands are much more official looking than our bread original pickup.
Yeah. It was literally just a plastic folding table with a Mexican blanket over the top.
I guess I forgot you were a Marine and then SEAL.
I never knew you could become a SEAL from being a Marine. I thought you had to go Navy.
It is a huge pain in the ass. So I was a Marine for 4 years, Naval Special Warfare. For a while, did it every 6 months, and then they shifted to every year. Well, they open it up to inter-service transfers. So they say Army, Air Force, Marine Corps. But they would say, if you guys want to apply, we'll take a couple of them. When it was 6 months, it was 2 people. And then when they shifted to a year, they allowed 4 people to come over from another service. You leave that service and you actually join the Navy. It's not like an exchange program. And so I applied for it once when it was taking 2 people. I didn't get it. That year, actually, 2 Marines were picked. And then the next year, or the next rotation, they shifted to a year just to consolidate stuff. And they picked 2 Marines and 2 Air Force guys to go through. The Air Force guy, he's an interesting story. He was 35, I think, when he went through. He had been a PJ for 10 years as an enlisted guy. And then he became the officer version, the CRO, combat rescue officer. So he'd been in 15 years, and then he went through butts. His first deployment, for reference, was Kosovo in 99.
That is just stud.
Glutton for punishment. When I was 35 to 5 years ago, I was thinking about like going through buds right now would be atrocious. But that was Staley. But yeah, so I transferred over, and from the moment I got notified on the Navy side that I had been selected, I then had to go to the Marine Corps and say, hey, I got this cool letter saying I was picked up by the Navy saying I can go through buds. It took 8 more months for the Marine Corps to go through all their process, all the way to the Commandant of the Marine Corps' office to say, yep, we're good, releasing you from the Marine Corps. Then the Navy had to say, cool, you released them. We want to pick you up on this date. And then the Marine Corps had to say, all right, we're good to release them the day before. So there's 0 break in service. It was just this trudge for 8 months of back and forth. I would rather go through buds again than that process.
What was it like being a SEAL, man? Like, people are always like, oh, Navy SEALs. Is it as cool as everyone thinks?
Well, I mean, you have to turn down book deals and movie casting deals all the time. She basically beats them off with a stick.
I have to tell you.
Honestly, it was a really cool community. People ask me all the time what I like better, being a Marine or a SEAL. And what I tell them is being a Marine as part of like the larger organization is phenomenal. Everything in the Marine Corps is geared towards that 19-year-old rifleman that's on the front line. Whether you're you're driving a Amtrak, whether you're driving or flying a helicopter or shooting artillery or being admin or comms in the back, everything is focused on getting that rifleman everything he needs to accomplish his mission. And so it's a very cohesive, brotherly organization, like that you've all heard of the Marine Corps birthday and stuff like that. That is the cool celebration of any of the services. The Navy doesn't have anything like that. It's super stovepipe. There's the surface community, there's the submarine community, there's the aviation community, and they're all very siloed, and they only talk to each other when they have to. There's not a lot of cross-pollination between it. But the SEAL community is very, very small. We're like a redheaded stepchild of the Navy because there's no real combat arms entity of the Navy. Like I'm sure Herb can tell you all day about the Army. There's infantry, and then there's special operations, and then there's like the super special operation guys at JSOC and SOCOM. But you can kind of jump between them. You can, and the Marine Corps is very similar too. You can be an infantry officer and then go over to MARSOC, now Raiders, and then you go back to infantry. The Navy doesn't have that. And so we don't have any way to pull people into the SEALs with combat experience. So everything needs to be grown from the ground up. So the junior officers are all developed inside the platoon and developed that way, as opposed to getting platoon leader experience and then coming in as an experienced leader. And so it's a really interesting community to be a part of, with a lot of history and exciting capabilities. And I love that part more than being a Marine, but being a Marine versus a sailor was hands down the better deal.
Kristen, did you meet Kevin once he was a SEAL or before?
I met him actually very late in his time as a SEAL. So he got out in early 2020, and we met mid 2017. So I was only with him for the last, that tail end.
What did you think when you found out he was a SEAL, or did you know immediately?
I knew when we met.
Idiot.
So how we met. So I mentioned earlier I had been teaching. I had quit that job, and in the meantime started working in a bar, figuring out what my next steps were going to be. And it was like my second or third night at this country bar,
Nashville's
in Honolulu. And he happened to be there. It was, I think, the end of his second week there. And he walked into the bar. They had already been to a brewery or something. So he was
saucy.
Yeah. Very shocking. So they all went out onto the patio area. And I was serving them all night. And so I learned right. He didn't tell me. One of the guys he was with was like, "Did you know he was a SEAL?" Because we were, they're all making a mess of themselves. But yeah, I knew right off the bat that that's what he was, and was super intrigued, obviously. He asked for my number, and then, did you ask for my number? Asked to give me your number.
I offered to give you my number. You said, "No, here's my number, but I work all the time."
Nice.
And so I was like, "All right, cool. Well, I'll be back tomorrow to see you." I came back the next night with some friends. And she's like, "All right, well, if you came back again, I'm going surfing." I think it was like a Sunday or something. She's like, "I'm off on Tuesday. I'm going to go surfing if you want to join." And meanwhile, I'm from California, not a huge surfer, but I grew up around the water, very comfortable in it. Obviously, SEAL, we dealt with Coronado waves and everything in boats. But when she said she was from New York and she moved out there to go surfing, in my mind, I'm like, New York, what do you have? Little knee-high waves. Obviously, you're not going to be a very good surfer, so I'm not intimidated by this. She shows up in this tiny bikini with a shortboard and is ripping. I'm like, what the F did I just get into? Yeah, I mean, she'd been out there for 2 years at that point, surfing the North Shore of Oahu. I mean, she's not dropping in on pipeline at the peak day, but she was out there doing double, triple overhead, and I'm just going through duck diving, drown proofing as I'm hanging out there with her. But it was fun.
That is what was that like once he left that?
So when I met him, he was actually stationed in Korea. And so from that time that we met, that we just talked about, we got married 4 months later. Shortly after that, I moved out to Korea with him for the last 8 or 9 months of his time out there. And then after that, we came back to San Diego That was in March of 2019. And he was stationed at Coronado with, was it Group 1?
Yeah. So I was a staff liaison officer for special operations in Korea, which is a lot of fun because the Korean SEALs are a hoot and they love to take you out drinking. I brought her a couple times.
Yeah.
Those were
It was a night.
rough nights. They're bringing out some weird Chinese liquor I've never even heard of. It burned all the way down, but a lot of fun. And then I went back I knew I was getting out. And so I asked to take a staff job at Group 1 in Coronado because I own the house here in San Diego. I want to make sure I got stationed back here. And there's no faster way to get approved for orders than to ask for a staff job.
So my experience with him in the team, he wasn't actually, with
A platoon
at that time.
Yeah.
So it was, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type of work. So I just wasn't around for the deployments or any of that. We just hadn't met yet. I will say I was very excited when he got out. And his plan was to go to the reserves, but he got out in February of 2020, right before COVID. And so it actually took over a year for the reserves to get him all situated. And by that point, he was so used to not the inefficiency of stuff that when he went back for one day to get a couple things done, get his email, get whatever, it was like just so many hours wasted. He was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was 15 months from the day I got out to when I got sworn into the reserves. It was 15 months. Grown a beard, had started a job, left a job, started my own business at that time. And then they finally said, all right, you're good to go. Go to Team 17, Coronado. Here's all the information. I went in for the first day. First off, putting your uniform back on for the first time after 15 months. I had to shave my beard. The first thing she did to look at me, she said, no.
Did you almost cry when you shaved it?
Yeah, she was like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, go back.
And I went in. I had to do two things. I had to get my ID card and I had to get my email access so I can check my email from home and go into a base. I was there all day. I got an ID card, but they put the wrong certs on it. So I couldn't do.
Yeah, you couldn't access
remember
anything,
these,
right?
the IA awareness or whatever, the information, internet awareness courses or whatever. I couldn't do that because I didn't have the certs on there. So I couldn't get an email. I'm like, this is why I left the military. It was, 8 hours there to do two things. I got kind of one done. And I just looked at Kristen like, I'm not going back. I'm done.
Yeah. And, when we first met, got married, so initially he had two different, bosses when we were out in Korea. And the first one was fantastic. But by the time I moved out there, he had been replaced by another guy and Kevin was not thrilled with him. He was one of those people, all the work was done, but you had to stay in the office till 5 or 6 p.m. because that's what you do. And then by the time we got back to San Diego, it was easy work but he was just excited to go do something else. So after he got out, he worked, like he said, he got another job and then started his own business. When he started that other business, I actually ended up working with him in that for a while. So that was really fun. And we learned that we can work together really well. When the reserves option came up, I knew that my opinion didn't matter. So I was like, you do what you want to do. And when he decided not to stay, I was very excited because it was just really nice having him around and this creative business side of him was able to come out and I'm along for the ride. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's try it out where we're at now. It's really nice having him around all the time and working with him. Like I said, we just work. We operate very differently and excel at different things. And so when we come together, it works really well.
Same with us. And it's been a journey and it's not all roses.
I've quit several times, turned in my laptop, I'm done. And then he'll be like, okay, over there trying to do something. And I'm like, oh, you're screwing it all up. Give it back.
If someone had pulled you aside at Bud's when you were coherent and maybe had a little bit of sleep and said, hey man, you're gonna start baking bread and do a bakery
with your super rad wife.
Yeah, who surfs.
Who surfs. Yeah.
What would you say?
Be excited about the latter part. I had zero experience whatsoever baking outside of going to the grocery store, buying the Pillsbury Doughboy roll of croissants. I can roll these triangles and put them onto a pan. That was my baking experience. So I would have said you're full of shit, and I'm probably more sleep deprived than I thought I was.
I mean, how has that evolved for you two? I know you're learning a lot, and from what the first week, 8 loaves of bread to now, dare say over 100 a week.
Oh yeah, well over.
Last week we made 116 loaves, 7 dozen cinnamon rolls, a bunch of cookies,
Pizza dough.
40 something pizza doughs. Feel like there might have been something else in there, but yeah, we
make our own jam as well. We have a guava tree that I think it's produced about 100. One tree produced about 100 pounds of guava that we've just been turning into jam. We have it's called the Cottage Food Operation Permit, CFO, and every state has some variation of it. They all have their own laws and requirements and restrictions and how they operate. But essentially, what is allowed. The intention is so that you can sell things from your house at small scale. You're not trying to turn it into
you don't need to have a commercial kitchen.
Yeah, it's not a full-fledged commercial bakery with employees, stuff like that. It's meant that you can do something from your home, earn a living, and have a viable business permit to do it all. Really solidifies the idea that small politics, local politics is the most important stuff there is. Like you see it all the time. Everyone's up in arms about their congressman or senator or the president. It's like, I can probably count on one hand the number of decisions the president made outside of it being commander in chief stuff that's really affected my day-to-day life. Like it just doesn't happen that much, but everyone gets so attached to those politics. But they can't tell you who their mayor is or who their city council rep is. Those decisions heavily impact everything in our day-to-day life. Like we're actually good friends now with our city council rep. He's a former Marine F-18 pilot, born and raised here in Encinitas, and he came through with a group of new members that basically ousted all the old ones because everyone was very upset with the direction Encinitas was going. We're having a lot of overdevelopment. We're a small, sleepy agricultural town. Like we used to be the wildflower capital of America. This is where poinsettias were originated. So those red flowery or red leafy things that come out at Christmas, those started here in Encinitas. And now it's just becoming more and more densely populated. They're putting up all these housing development things from the state of California. And so we had a bunch of the mayor and 2 city council reps out of the 4 all got replaced by these new ones. And so we would have never been involved with these things had we not had issues with the city that we were trying to get things done ourselves. And so I reached out to him. Awesome guy. I met for coffee. He now is one of our customers. He helps us with a lot of the stuff. And now we know so many people in the community because they all literally come to our house to pick up bread. We find out more about them. We hear about their stories, their kids, their grandkids, their jobs. It's become a great touch point with the community that we never would have had we just had a job going someplace else.
You bring up a good point. Definitely, I never thought about it in the military. And then even when I got out and had a corporate job, it wasn't until we had our business that I even cared about the mayors, commissioners, councils. Any advice for any other couples out there that may work together, maybe secretly to help us?
Asking for a friend.
Help a brother out here. Any advice?
I mean, the thing that's helped us a ton, Kristen alluded to it earlier, is that we have very different ways to approach problems and things that we enjoy doing. She has a very, very detail oriented, like when we have our bake days, it is jam packed from 5 a.m. oftentimes until 5 or 6 p.m. She literally writes on a whiteboard, from this time to this time is this thing. Stretch and fold 1, stretch and fold 2, coil 1, and then you're mixing bin 2 while also doing stretch and fold 3 on bin 1. It's a very detailed choreographed dance of everything that's going on, and she has it to the minute broken down of what's going to be going on. I'm great at coming up with solutions. We have a problem, Herb, no one's getting shot at, nothing crazy is happening. We can work through this. I'll come up with a solution. It's not going to stress me out.
We're out of ingredient X that we need 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. I'll figure out a solution to go get some more or order it, or
because some things aren't something you can just like run to the grocery store and grab. I order from other places. So if I mess up inventory or, whatever, it happened. The packaging I didn't realize didn't arrive for this, for this item. We don't have the boxes for that.
I'm a perpetual optimist. I was like, we can do this. And so I have much more of that big vision direction concept of how we can grow this. what about this? And she'll be my devil's advocate to keep me in line, because I will 100% chase squirrels.
Yeah.
But it allows us to keep that direction going, but also rein it in, so we're not jumping all over the place, and we're actually staying on task.
Yeah.
And so it's been a great compatibility, because we're not stepping on each other's toes. I'm not trying to redo her schedule for me, or if I'm not trying to redo her schedule, and she's not trying to tell me how we're going to drive the business. And so we take on the things that we enjoy doing, and we hand off the things we don't. And it hadn't had a whole lot of gaps.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about how you guys manage that, because you guys are doing a beautiful job with very intentional branding.
Thank you. We do it all ourselves. We just try to remember when we're baking to take some photos and take some videos. There'll be weeks that go by and I'm like, damn it, we forgot again, and I have nothing for new content. I got to go find stuff to recycle. I do a lot of the editing to get the stuff, the brightness, all the things correct. I fiddle with that in Photoshop just to get the colors and everything balanced. And then Kevin does a lot more of the like LinkedIn posts and that kind of stuff. I focus more on the Instagram side. He does more of the newsletter. So we have, the different audiences that we cater to.
New York accent came out strong.
That was weird. Yeah. I don't know where it came out.
Do you hear her ever say New York?
No, her parents though, her mom grew up in Staten Island. Her dad grew up in Brooklyn. And as she mentioned earlier that we got married after 4 months, engaged after 2 months, and married 2 months later. And I was living in Korea. She was in Hawaii. My family's in California. Her family's in New York. So no one met each other until so we got married on New Year's Eve. I met her parents on Christmas when I flew from Korea to Florida to Hawaii for the wedding. And so hearing her parents for the first time. And then even better, we had a mini wedding out in New York a couple months later for all the family that couldn't get out there. It was like being on the set of My Cousin Vinny. I'm like, oh my God, people actually talk like this.
He looked at me, he was like, is this real?
Because she obviously doesn't have much of an accent, so I wasn't prepared for it.
Where's the bakery headed? Because now you're still a small operation. Like I said, kind of hit your point of, can you even make more bread? So do y'all have any plans to expand this? Because I'm really just want a crafted coastal bakery
to
nearby.
Rise it?
Well, I want to rise all the way over here so we can have one near us.
That is a great question. It's something we're currently figuring out.
We've been battling back and forth. So we have 2 boys, not 2 under 2. One of them just turned 2 weeks ago. But young. We have a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. And obviously they take up a significant amount of attention and bandwidth. And we don't want to sacrifice that to
They're only little ones.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're figuring out how to grow this responsibly, because it's also just a weird time economically, especially here in California. It's a very difficult state to run business. It's very expensive. And so we're kind of getting to the point where we're outgrowing the cottage food operation model. You're not supposed to have employees. As she mentioned, there's that cap on how much you can earn in a lot of weeks. What we do is we have one sale day every week on Saturdays, and we've been regularly breaking $2,000 in that one day of sales, which if you do the math, 50, even if you just do 50 weeks a year, that's 100,000. So that's already exceeding the 75K. And so there's a lot of things that we're butting up against. Plus we've grown enough that we have a triple stack commercial oven. We have a double door commercial fridge. We have 2 mixers. We have a freezer. We have literally hundreds of pounds of flour that we're storing here. And this is also our house. And so everything's getting more congested. And so it's like, all right, what is the next step? Do we find a commercial space that we can rent? Do we try to get a storefront? Do we tone it back a little bit? Not going to, but do we just shut everything down? So, there's times when we just get stressed out. We literally had a 17-hour prep day on her birthday. And it's one of those days that it just never got fun. A lot of times, you get in that flow.
You asked how we worked together. Well, that day, Kevin dug himself a big hole. We were up since 5 a.m. and by 9:30, I was like, I don't think you remembered it was my birthday. And he was like, nope, did not.
Sure didn't.
Totally forgot.
Oh.
And so that was a day he got on my shit list for sure.
Yeah.
That was not a fun day. So
And you're like, do we just stop doing this? Neither one of us really want to do that. We really enjoy what we've built. We've obviously gone through a lot to figure out all the knowledge and the experience and grown the brand. But you just kind of get to the sticking point of, all right, if we get a retail space that's thousands of dollars a month in rent, and then utilities and insurance, and you have employees and payroll taxes, and all of a sudden, what was a very low risk business venture from the house now becomes a very expensive thing where you have personal guarantees on the line. You have to keep performing. Like if we don't bake for a week, no big deal. We own all the equipment. It's all in the garage. It's not that big of a deal. But if we own a bakery and we don't want to show up for a week, well, now we have all those responsibilities and those fees or the payments that are going to be coming due. So it becomes a much more real thing, and it's a scary step to take, but it's one we've been considering because we found a unique opportunity. There's a cafe down less than a mile away from us, right on Coast Highway, which is the main downtown strip. And they're doing an asset sale because the owner is consolidating. He's getting ready to retire. He has another location farther south. And so he's looking to close that one down and just sell the stuff and kind of simplify his life. And the rent on it is extremely low because he's had a great relationship with the landlord for however long. And so we have an opportunity to get into a retail space for much cheaper than we would have normally been able to. It's already been renovated. It's got a great decor. It would fit our brand image really well. But now we're sitting here like, all right, do we make this leap? It's not a common opportunity to arise. And so if we don't take this one, are we going to get another chance? And so these are the conversations we're having right now of how do we move forward? And I also don't like the idea of being 100% retail because now you're very beholden to the fluctuations of the market. We've had some weeks where we don't get anywhere near what we were expecting because school's out or their vacation time, or we think one week everyone just had the flu around here because we were talking to a bunch of parents and they're like, oh, my kids are all sick. I think people just didn't show up because everyone was sick. So we're figuring out how we can developing a way to ship our bread. Can we do a partial bake and freeze it and mail it to people?
And then you pop it in your oven for the last 20 minutes of the baking, and then you have fresh bread.
I think you really hit on something that's a key common denominator for business owners is you get to a point where you start looking at like, how do you scale? How do you, continue? And there's definitely so many days where it does feel like, okay, or what the heck are we doing? Like, this is consuming so much, and is this the right path? And every time I think that we've started to have that thought or feeling, then there will be like this day of insane rejuvenation, like the next day.
The next day, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it feels like we're being led to keep going. And have you guys experienced that?
She can tell you a little bit more about it, but last week we were talking with a friend because like, I don't know how we keep doing this. We have some people that help us, assistant bakers that come in for the day or two to help us scale. But as you bring those on, now your profits are going down. She did the math. She's like, we did basically 40 hours of work with all the prep time and the sell time, and I made $700. So after you pay for the ingredients and the people that are helping you.
So we have like the nanny takes the boys out for 8 hours on Friday,
and so we're like, well, all right, well, that's not really a sustainable option. Now we're stressing ourselves out, taking time away from the kids, all for $700. So the only way to really expand, because you're not going to realistically make more bread in that time frame without having significant expansion, larger facility, more equipment, more people, then you just balloon your costs. And so your profit really still stays the same. We were talking with a friend. We're like, I don't know how we're going to keep doing this. We might just need to take a pause and figure out what's going to be next. And she decided to jump on and start searching for commercial kitchens. And that's when she found the listing for the cafe right down the road, literally a mile away from us. on the exact road we'd want to be on for significantly cheaper monthly rent than anything else around. Like, thank you,
Yeah.
universe. I think the most exciting part for us right now is figuring out these next steps. That's really the part that I thoroughly enjoy is I'm getting my MBA right now. I'm taking advantage of the GI Bill and VRE. So what used to be voc rehab became veterans readiness and employment. The housing allowance from the GI Bill, have some money coming in from my disability rating. And so it creates some residual income that gives us that space to build this stuff out without one of us having to get a job elsewhere. And so I really enjoy the business and the marketing side. That's what my focus is on, is marketing. It's exciting, and it's a fun puzzle for me to try and figure out and learn all this stuff, because I've never run a product-focused business before. All my other things have been service-related. It's a fun experiment to do a lot of trial and error, to see what works, to do some research, to see how to do these things. And you get to have great conversations, and you hear all kinds of perspectives. Like I've one friend, he's been in the hospitality entertainment industry for a while, and he's poking holes at all these things. Like, this is what your labor cost is going to be. And this is what you're going to have to pay for in taxes. And these are the things you have to worry about. And, keeping patrons coming back through the week as much as you can, so that they're constantly wanting to go to you. That's really what I'm excited about. And I love talking to people about the business growth and entrepreneurship. She is, as you've seen her a couple times, she's like, "Oh, you're trying to be smart with bread." And then she'll answer the questions on like how the actual ingredients interact and how to and all the nutritional side of the bread.
If you're in SoCal, get to Craft and Coastal Bakery on a Saturday and watch out for more news coming to get some awesome bread. What do you value most in life?
Family and experiences. None of this would be like, we wouldn't do either of this if there wasn't a greater meaning behind it. Like, don't start a bakery because you want to make a lot of money. It might eventually work out that way, but it is a labor of love. It's been a ton of fun working with her, being at home, the boys seeing what we're doing, and getting to meet everybody in the community.
Subscribe, like, and comment, and don't forget to set those notifications. We'll see you next week with another special guest.
Until then, own your journey.